Session 3, January 21, 1981. I am Ra. I greet you in the love and the light of the one infinite Creator. I communicate with you now. My first question, questioner. My first question is, did we correctly perform the ritual for starting the communication? I am Ra. The placement of the artifacts designated to balance the instrument should be placed at the instrument's head for the least distortion of effect. The remainder of the beginning account of purpose is quite acceptable for those speaking desire to serve. Otherwise, the attendant emphasis and mind complexities would not have been affected properly. We caution you to guard against those who are not wishing to serve others above all else from taking part in the beginning or in lending their distortions of mind-body-spirit complex to any session, as we should then be unable to properly blend our distortions with those of this instrument. Questioner: should I move the Bible, candle, and incense at this time? I am Ra. This would be appropriate. Questioner: after moving the items, is this the proper position? I am Ra. Please correct the angle of the incense so that it is perpendicular to the plane of 20 degrees north by northeast. Questioner: after making the correction, is this satisfactory? I am Ra. Please check by eye to make fine correction. We will explain the process by which this becomes a significant distortion balancer. The incense acts as energizer to the physical body of this instrument, signifying its humanity. This is therefore a necessity that the wafted smoke is perceived from the same relative angle as the instrument perceives the opened Bible, balanced by the lighted candle signifying love light and light love, and therefore give the mental and emotional, shall we call it, distortion complex of this instrument the sight of paradise and peace which it seeks. Thus, energized from the lower to the higher, the instrument becomes balanced and does not grow fatigued. We appreciate your concern, for this will enable our teach learning to proceed more easily. Questioner: does everything appear correctly aligned now? I am Ra. I judge it within limits of acceptability. Questioner: at the last session, we had 2 questions that we were saving for this season. One having to do with the possible capstone on top of the Great Pyramid at Giza. The other having to do with how you moved the heavy blocks that made up the pyramid. I know these questions are of no importance with respect to the law of one, but It was my judgment, and please correct me if I am wrong and make the necessary suggestions, that this would provide an easy entry for those who would read the material that will eventually become a book. We are very grateful for your contact and will certainly take any suggestions as to how we should perceive this information. I am Ra. I will not suggest the proper series of questions. This is your prerogative as free agent of the law of one, having learned, understood that our social memory complex cannot effectually discern the distortions of the societal mind-body-spirit complex of your peoples. We wish now to fulfill our teach, learning, honor, responsibility by answering what is asked. This only will suffice, for we cannot plumb the depths of the distortion complexes which infect your peoples. The first question, therefore, is the capstone. We iterate the unimportance of this type of data. The so-called Great Pyramid had two capstones. One was of our design and was of smaller and carefully contrived pieces of the material upon your planet, which you call granite. This was contrived for crystalline properties and for the proper flow of your atmosphere via a type of what you would call chimney. At a time when we as a people had left your density, the original was taken away and a more precious one substituted. It consisted in part of a golden material. This did not change the properties of the pyramid, as you call it, at all, and was a distortion due to the desire of a few to mandate the use of the structure as a royal place only. Do you wish to query further upon this first question? Questioner: what did you mean by chimney? What was its specific purpose? I am Ra. There is a proper flow of your atmosphere which, though small, freshens the whole of the structure. This was designed by having airflow ducts, as this instrument might call them, situated so that there was a freshness of atmosphere without any disturbance or draft. Questioner: how were the blocks moved? I am Ra. You must picture the activity within all that is created. The energy is, though finite, quite large compared to the understanding distortion by your peoples. This is an obvious point well known to your people, but little considered. This energy is intelligent. It is hierarchical, much as your mind-body-spirit complex dwells within a hierarchy of vehicles and retains, therefore, the shell or shape or field and the intelligence of each ascendingly intelligent or balanced body. So does each atom of such a material as rock. When one can speak to that intelligence, the finite energy of the physical or chemical rock body is put into contact with that infinite power which is resident in the more well-tuned bodies, be they human or rock. With this connection made, a request may be given. The intelligence of infinite rockness communicates to its physical vehicle, and that splitting and moving which is desired is then carried out through the displacement of the energy field of rockness from finity to a dimension which we may conveniently call simply infinity. In this way, that which is required is accomplished due to a cooperation of the infinite understanding of the Creator indwelling in the living rock. This is, of course, the mechanism by which many things are accomplished, which are not subject to your present means of physical analysis of action at a distance. Questioner: I am reminded of the statement approximately that if you had faith to move a mountain, the mountain would move. This seems to be approximately what you were saying, that if you are fully aware of the law of one, you would be able to do these things. Is that correct? I am Ra. The vibratory distortion of sound, faith, is perhaps one of the stumbling blocks between those of what we may call the infinite path and those of the finite proving understanding. You are precisely correct in your understanding of the congruency of faith and intelligent infinity. However, one is a spiritual term, the other more acceptable perhaps to the conceptual framework distortions of those who seek with measure and pen. Questioner: Then, if an individual is totally informed with respect to the law of one and lives the law of one, then such things as the building of the pyramids by direct mental effort would be commonplace. Is that what I am to understand? I am Ra. You are incorrect in that there is a distinction between the individual power through the law of one and the combined or societal memory complex mind, body, spirit understanding of the law of one. In the first case, only the one individual, purified of all flaws, could move a mountain. In the case of mass understanding of unity, each individual may contain an acceptable amount of distortion, and yet the mass mind could move mountains. The progress is normally from the understanding which you now seek to a dimension of understanding which is governed by the laws of love and which seeks the laws of light. Those who are vibrating with the law of light seek the law of one. Those who vibrate with the law of one seek the law of forgiveness. We cannot say what is beyond this dissolution of the unified self with all that there is, for we still seek to become all that there is, and still we are Ra. Thus our paths go onward.